Hello everyone, Doc Sketchy here. This is my most recent build. This is a quad function generator based on the Intellijel Quadra plus Expander, but built in Serge-4U format. So this is I don't have the panel for this. The panel is actually a much larger panel, which is in England, and I'm in Canada. I'm going to make this video and then I'm going to send this thing to England so it can be joined up with its panel and sent to its proud owner. Anyway, this is what the panel is going to look like. So this panel was designed by Loudest Warning, who's putting the whole modular together. So it's as I said, it's based on the Quadra, and there's 4 channels, 1, 2, 3, 4, and each channel is a attack decay envelope generator with exponential and linear capability, and with attack decay, attack hold decay, and cycle. And then the 2 channels at the top and the 2 channels at the bottom also have an OR output and can also be put into quadrature mode. So I'll be demonstrating all those things in this video. So before we get started with the patches, I wanted to just talk a little bit about the build itself. This build is 3 PCBs. The top PCB is the panel PCB with all the panel components and a little bit of circuitry for the quadrature mode switches. The bottom PCB is all the circuitry for the Quadra. And the middle PCB is what I call a translator. And you can see that it's really just it's mostly just a lot of pin headers and jumper wires. And so the idea is that if you look to the right of the middle board, you see the pin headers that connect the translator board to the panel PCB, and if you look to the left of this translator board, you can see all the pin headers that connect the translator board to the main circuit PCB. So what the translator board's job is to make sense of all those interconnections, to ultimately route all the connections from the circuit board to the panel board. But this translator board does double duty because it also has a bit of circuitry in the middle, which is the circuitry associated with the Quadra Expander. Okay, so I'm going to put this back in the frame, and then we'll look at some basic patches. Okay, so I've set up a very basic patch, just involving the first function generator. I've got to connect alligator clips to these little pins because this will eventually, as I said, it's Serge format, so it will have banana jacks. And the problem with banana jacks is that they have to be connected to the panel before they can be soldered into the circuit board. So the banana jacks won't be connected until this whole thing gets over to England. Here's the banana jacks all ready to send. Okay. So this first patch, basically I've got a trigger coming from my keyboard, and the output of the envelope is going to a VCA, and the VCA is processing a single sawtooth VCO. So when I hit the keyboard, it will trigger the envelope, and we'll hear and this thing is in, let's see, it's in exponential mode, and it's in AR mode. So when I hit the key, turn that up just a hair. So when I hit the key, even if I hold the key down, I just get a single envelope, single attack release. Now if I put it in attack sustain release mode, now if I hold down the key, the note stays on. Now I'm going to turn the attacks all the way down. I'm going to turn the decay down a bit. Put this back in AR mode, and we can adjust the decay to get. Unfortunately, I only have one hand free. I'll give it a little bit of Turn the attack down or up. Now that's exponential mode. If I put it in linear mode, it gets a little bit shorter in linear mode. So I have to turn the attack and decay up a little bit. So it's a very different sound in linear mode. Okay, so that's basic patch 1. We'll move on to patch 2. So in patch 2, what I've done is I've retained the original patch 1 going to the VCA, and then I've taken the output of a second envelope generator, also triggered from the keyboard, and this output is going to the filter, a VCF, to sweep the filter. And so both of these envelopes are independent, but they're both triggered from the keyboard. So here's what I get. If I turn the decay down on the filter, I can. So the filter and the VCA are independent. Now I can put this envelope in ASR mode, and leave the filter envelope in AR mode, and here's what I get. Or I can do the opposite, and here's what I get. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the VCA in ASR mode and put the filter envelope into cycle mode and get myself a fairly fast cycle. I've turned the attack all the way to 0, which means it's instant, and I'm giving a pretty short decay, so I get a rapid repeating thing. And here's what so first I'll start with the VCA envelope in AR mode. Turn the decay down a little bit. Let me okay, so then if I put the VCA envelope into ASR mode, I'll turn the decay down a little bit more. All right, so that's another idea with just using the basic envelope generating capabilities of the two channels. Now for this third patch, I've gone back to just a single envelope generator. This time it's in cycle mode, but I've taken an LFO triangle wave, and I'm using that to modulate the attack and decay times. And so the attack and decay times are somewhat, well, they're not random, but they're modulated. So here's a little sample of what we get. And I'm also using the same envelope for the filter. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a different LFO for the I'm going to use a different LFO for the decay and the attack. I'll try it in linear mode. So obviously with CV over the attack and decay times, you can get a massive amount of complexity even just from one envelope generator. Okay, now in this patch, it's a little bit more complicated. This patch is in two parts. So I've got the first envelope going to the VCA, and then I've got the second envelope also being which is ORed together with the first envelope, and I've got the OR setting all the way up, and the OR is going to the filter. And the second envelope is being triggered by the third envelope, which I've got set to a fairly fast cycle. So what happens when I hit a key? Turn that cycle up a little bit faster. Turn the decay longer. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to modulate the decay of the third envelope with the fourth envelope, which is also being triggered by the keyboard. So those repeats will start slow and then get faster. Now what happens if I turn the OR all the way down? So with the OR turned all the way down, the filter, the second envelope, has no effect on the OR output, and the OR output is only taking the first envelope's output. So the filter is just swept by the first envelope, which is also affecting the VCA. So I can let me. I'm going to cycle this. Turn it down to explain what's going on. So now I've put the first envelope on cycle mode, so it'll just repeat slowly, so I don't have to keep hitting a key. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly turn up the OR input, the OR blend for channel 2, to show how that impacts the wait a second. What's going on here? Okay. So I'm going to show how slowly increasing the OR amount changes this this effect. So that's kind of a cool effect. Yeah. I'm going to demonstrate quadrature mode. Now we're just using the top two channels, and when I flip this switch up, they're both in AR mode and they're both in linear mode. And when I flip the quadrature mode switch on, they'll start cycling and they'll generate complementary envelopes. So I've got the first envelope controlling the filter and the second envelope controlling the VCA. Then I'm going to switch them around. So here's what it sounds like in this configuration. So you can get all kinds of different subtleties by changing the A and D settings of the two. Now I'm going to switch the VCA and the filter to the opposite envelopes, and we'll see what we get. Now in my filter I can change the direction. That's kind of cool. So that's just a very brief and inadequate demonstration of quadrature mode. Okay, I'm going to show you one more patch. Okay, for this final patch, this one's kind of complicated. This is what I call the daisy chain. So the end of cycle output, which is this LED and this banana jack, for each envelope is triggering the next. So you see the end of cycle for envelope 1 is triggering envelope 2, end of cycle for envelope 2 is triggering envelope 3, the end of cycle of envelope 3 is triggering envelope 4, and the end of cycle of envelope 4 is going to trigger envelope 1 as soon as I connect this alligator jack. What that does is it causes all 4 envelopes to fire one after the other. Now I've got each envelope is controlling a VCA. So there's my 4 VCAs. Had to pull these 2 VCAs out of storage, and these are the other 2 VCAs, my more modern 1U dual VCA unit. So each envelope is controlling a VCA, and each VCA is processing a VCO. And the VCOs are tuned to a dominant 7th chord. So here we go. And by adjusting the A and the attack and decay of each envelope, I can change the rhythm and change the contours of each note. So first with no attacks anywhere. I'm going to put a couple of them in exponential mode. Now, what happens if I trigger the first envelope from the keyboard? Gotta set the phone down for a second. Sorry. Just hooking a patch cord up to the hooking a patch cord up from the keyboard trigger to the first envelope. So when I hit a key, I should hear a note, and then as soon as I let that key, I'll put that in ASR mode. So when as long as I hold the key down, I'll hear that first note, and when I let the key up, I'll get the 7th chord. Here we go. Oh yeah, it's a little bit too loud, too long here. Now I'll put it in AR mode. Now only got one of the VCOs connected to the keyboard CV. So I'm going to stop the camera and put all the VCOs on CV, and then we can move that 7th chord around the keyboard. Okay, I got all that sorted. Now what I'm going to do is show you the 7th chords just coming through the VCAs without any control from the envelope. Now I'm going to turn the biases down and turn the CVs up on my VCAs. Biases down, CVs up to about halfway. And now we'll see what happens. Let's give it a little bit more decay on each one. It's a little too much. And let's go into ASR mode on the first one. And that's a little too slow. Put that back in AR mode. Turn up the we'll give these a little bit of attack. Anyway, fun for days.